Faith Church, hope you are well. Even though you may be watching this on Friday or Saturday, I recorded this on Thursday on Halloween, and was reflecting on the passages in the Gospel of Matthew, which many of us have been reading through together as a congregation. We read Matthew 27 today and 26 yesterday, and those two chapters are Matthew's version of what we call the Passion account, Jesus' trial and torture and crucifixion. And it struck me as I read through those two chapters that there is only one hero in this story, that literally everybody else, or I should say literally nobody else, is willing to stand with Jesus. The religious leaders who knew the scriptures as well as anybody and who should have known the sort of Messiah that they should be looking for, they are the ones pursuing Jesus' death and willing to compromise almost everything to see him killed. The Romans, the people who have the power to carry out the execution, Pilate, for instance, he kind of knows what's happening is not just, but he caves to public pressure and goes along with it, literally washes his hands of it all. Judas, we all know what Judas does. It's a tragic story, ends up killing himself when he realizes what he's done. Peter, Jesus' most courageous disciple, you might say, ends up denying he even knows Jesus and ends up weeping bitter tears. In fact, the scriptures tell us that all of Jesus' disciples deserted him, every single one. The crowds turn against Jesus. They come by the cross and mock him and spit on him. Even the two criminals that Jesus is crucified next to in Matthew's account end up mocking Jesus as they're dying. What does it take to expend energy as you're suffering on the cross to mock another person? It's remarkable. Nobody stands with Jesus. He's the only hero in the story. After he dies, of course, Joseph of Arimathea comes and takes the body, and the centurion recognizes that this was somebody unique. So there are some things after he's dead, but when it's all on the line, when to stand with Jesus in that moment would have cost somebody their life, nobody does it. It's interesting to me, it's not in Matthew, but in Luke, we do read that one of the criminals on the cross does eventually, something happens and he changes his tune, moves from mocking to basically pleading with Jesus, asking Jesus to remember him when he comes into his kingdom. And this is really the only person I can think of in the whole Passion account that stands with Jesus, and he's got nothing to lose, which is, I think, instructive. He's on the cross dying, and so to stand with Jesus, there's nothing to lose. He figures, I think, I might as well throw in my lot with this extraordinary man next to me. Two things real quick that just, I think, we're thinking about today. One, Jesus goes to the cross alone. None of us, had we been there, we also would have failed to stand with Jesus. He goes to the cross alone, and he suffers and dies for people who are not willing to stand with him. In fact, many who are willing to kill him. And this is remarkable, that what it demonstrates about the love of God for us. And secondly, I think the other criminal who does end up turning to Christ only when he has nothing to lose, maybe is instructive for us, that when we come to recognize that we have nothing to lose, that everything we have, we really have nothing without Jesus. So that is a place to be. It's what Jesus says at the beginning of his key teaching in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew: "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God." And my prayer is that for me and you, we would both come to that place where we recognize we have nothing to lose and everything to gain by turning to Jesus. We become that poor in spirit that Jesus would say to us, as he says to the criminal next to him, today you'll be with me in paradise. The kingdom of God is yours. Hope you've just spent some time in these texts and reflecting and see what God brings to mind for you. Tomorrow or Friday, if you're reading this, is the end of Matthew's gospel, which is, of course, the account of the resurrection, where everything changes. It's the best news ever. So really looking forward to being with you Sunday. It's going to be a beautiful day to be together. Really feel like God's given me a message of grace to share with you. We'll also gather around the Lord's table and then have a party between services. We'll have some treats and gather in the courtyard. So I hope you can be with us. Wherever you are today, may you sense the love of God as your Father and the grace of Christ his Son and the presence of the Spirit. Peace.